This is a short video on how to get BlueSpray and use it. The easiest way to get to it, I think, is to go to gsp.humboldt.edu or the geospatial website at Humboldt State. Click on ISAM, that's my institute, Technology, BlueSpray, and then the BlueSpray website. Now, I'm going to go to download and show you that you can just click on BlueSpray Beta 42. However, BlueSpray is based on Java, which is a really cool language. It runs across Mac, Unix, and Windows, but you need to have Java installed, and it needs to be 64-bit Java. So please follow these instructions on how to set it up if you don't already have 64-bit Java ready to go, and to access the projlibs libraries to read and write all different kinds of GIS file formats. You will need to take a look at this stuff. Okay, here I've downloaded it. I've got it over here. I've unzipped it. Now, one of the cool things is to run it, all you really need to do is double click on the batch file. There's one caveat with that, and that's that the batch file has these two parameters in it that set the minimum and maximum amount of memory. Don't worry about the minimum. Look, XMS for minimum and XMX for maximum. We don't know why, but there's 6,000 megabytes. That's what that means. So I've got it set to 6 gig. If you don't have 6 gig available on your computer, and on Windows you need to make sure you leave a gig or two available for the operating system or your computer will crash, then you might want to reduce that. If you've got a lot of RAM, you might want to bump it up because BlueSpray is kind of a memory hog. Anyway, if you change this, then go ahead and save it and run it. You can also run the launcher. We do have some security issues that happen, problems with this at HSU. So I don't use it too much, but here again you can change the max amount of memory. You can also just double click on the jar file, but that will use the minimum amount of RAM. Double click on that, fires up a console window, and then boom, there's BlueSpray. Once in a while it'll pop up for an unknown Java reason, and this little tiny view window is sitting up here, but you can just grab the corner of it and make it bigger. BlueSpray is a pretty standard GIS package with menus, tools, and then your table of contents down here. Scene is what I would refer to as a bunch of maps in most GIS packages. The way I typically use BlueSpray is I go ahead and just drag and drop data into it. So here I've got some elevation data. It'll pop up this window to let you know how big it is, and if you're working with really big rasters, you can actually crop it right here because BlueSpray will load the entire raster into RAM. That's why it's very fast, but of course that can cause some other problems if you don't have enough RAM and you're dealing with really big rasters. There's a county outline, so it handles polygon data, point data, polylines. There's some human transport. So it's a typical GIS package, except that I wrote the whole thing. And it's really nowadays, when I initially wrote it, I wrote it because QGIS didn't work well on Windows. So we needed an alternative to the Esri packages, but now QGIS does work well. So there's a few things that it's really good at. And one of the things I'm going to show you here is how to crop rasters. To crop a raster, all you need to do is grab this marquee tool, draw a box, right click on the raster, transforms general, crop raster, make sure the AOI is selected, that's the area of interest that you've picked, and boom, there's your cropped raster. Now, to show you a little more detail of what just happened, here's my elevation raster. Okay, so if I zoom out, you can see the whole thing here. Okay. And here's my cropped section, which is drawn a little differently because it has different min-max range of values. And notice that we're clicking here and we're going between select and invisible. That's a closed eyelid, if you can get that right away. And then you can right click, you can make things hidden, you can make them visible, selectable, or editable. By default, everything comes in as just selectable so that you don't accidentally start editing things, because it's also very easy to edit vector data in BlueSpray. Okay, you can also do painting or symbology to some extent, but the real power of BlueSpray is going to be in a few of the transforms that we have here. It does a floating point-based classify, there's color ramps, there's the ability to break up and combine rasters based on bands, including if you have masks, or I've ended up with some 5-band rasters. I didn't know why they had 5 bands, brought them in, pulled them apart, changing data types, and it does all these very quickly. Very powerful matrix resizer for scaling images and using kernels up to 9 by 9, where most JS packages at most support 5 by 5. Let's see, some fast mosaic, but you can also do those in other packages. There's statistics if you want to be able to do things like add random pixels to a correlation matrix right here. Hemi-2 and Monte Carlo Maxent are two of the features that if you take my modeling class, you'll learn about those. Pearson's correlation coefficient as well as Spearman's. Some other statistics. The Carto mixer is really cool in cartography, and there is a whole menu here to do water work or hydrology work, and then a bunch of other stuff. At different levels of completeness, you'll see things marked as being in beta. That means they're still being tested, or alpha means I'm still writing them. And you can also get a bunch of information about your rasters really quickly: 32-bit float, grayscale, width and height, pixel width and height, and reference units, etc. The reference system. And BlueSpray supports all 130 odd raster file formats supported by GDAL. So it'll read in just about anything, and then I tend to just save them back out as a TIFF or an image, often cropping them and resampling them in BlueSpray. So there you go, just a really brief introduction. When you want to load new stuff in, go ahead and just do a reset on it. Oh, I should also mention that BlueSpray works a little bit differently when you project, because when you come in, you'll see the spatial reference across the top, and eastings, northings, lat long if it's projected. And the projections are handled at the scene level. So here we can define the spatial reference or change it. We can change it very quickly to some of the more popular ones like Google Mercator for putting it up on the map. And boom, there, it's been reprojected. And then you can just right-click, and again, pretty much everything you want is going to be right-click, available to you by right-click. And export to file will then save that out to different file formats. Have fun.